There is an immediacy to drawing that I find very precious, because you feel slightly liberated. And I think for the viewer looking at a drawing, you are almost given the opportunity to inhabit the space that the artist is in, while you can almost sneak in between the artist, between the pencil and the paper, for example. It gives you insight into that process, the intimacy of that process, I think.
Rebecca, thank you so much for agreeing to sit down with me here today in the wonderful Academicians Room at the Royal Academy to talk about drawing and drawings.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my favourite subject.
I think any of us who've looked at drawings for any length of time are very aware that artists through the ages have used drawings in incredibly different ways. And one is drawings that are made as part of a learning process, whether it's to refine the artist's technique or to record or copy another work of art or whatever it may be. There are drawings that are made as part of a process of making something else, so preparatory studies, and then there are drawings that are made purely as works of art in their own right, as final, finished works.
I often use a quote from Joseph Kerner's book on Caspar David Friedrich and the subject of the landscape, because I think it sums up the essence of drawing for me. And he said, "You stand before the pictures as before answers for which the questions have been lost."
Of the works that we've got coming up now in this sale, was there anything in particular that struck you in terms of the moment of creation or the moment of observation?
Well, I was particularly interested in the Volterrano, and that for me, it captured that moment when perhaps even more than one artist or a group of people are sitting around a table working through ideas. And it's all those thoughts coalescing in these drawings, and you can almost trace a timeline in them.
And in that case, really rapidly sketching on both sides of the sheet of paper in this very, very free red chalk.
And you can feel the speed of it, can't you? Just in the marks, and and beyond those marks, you can feel the speed of thought. You could almost write the conversation that they were having.
I think when I look at old drawings, I'm always thinking very hard about why they were made, what the artist was trying to do with the drawing. Artists
are curious by nature, and the appetite to explore and find and engage with different artists and different traditions just spans the centuries. And of course now it's completely global.
The Rubens drawing in this sale is a perfect example of that. You have Rubens in Italy around 1605 copying a section of an antique sarcophagus relief from the 2nd century, and then on the other side of the same sheet copying a figure from a fresco which was in the same location in Rome, in Palazzo Farnese, done about 50 years before he was there by Daniele da Volterra. And he was a classic case of an artist who was constantly trying to learn from everything that he saw. Actually, that makes me think of the Hans Hoffmann hair.
I'm glad you mentioned the Hans Hoffmann hair.
Because that gives the impression, first of all, of being a natural observation of a living creature, and yet it's actually based on an earlier watercolour by Dürer, 80 years earlier.
Yes, and Hoffmann did it with this exquisite sort of richness on vellum.
I'm absolutely staggered by the texture and the feeling that you could touch the fur.
But the exceptional technique has not killed the hair.
No.
You constantly have to keep your line alive, and he's managed that.
And then how about works that have been made purely as independent works in their own right? I mean, the obvious one that stands out in this context is the Samuel Palmer, which is the highlight of this very interesting collection from Cyril and Shirley Fry's estate that is part of this sale.
Again, what I loved about the Palmer was the vocabulary of drawing and marks that he'd created within it.
It's almost abstract.
Yes, and I mean the sky, it's very, very rich, but highly individual.
There certainly seems to be quite a lot of interest in drawing at the moment, and I've been looking with some interest at this publication here that Phaidon have just come out with, to which you have contributed, vitamin D3. When we look at how drawings have been used and the role that they played in the work of different artists, do you see a huge difference between what's going on today and the sort of things that were happening in the periods we've been talking about so far in previous centuries?
The tools have changed, but I think the motivation is still the same. Fundamentally, it comes down to how do you get what's in here out? And drawing is one of the, and probably will remain one of the best ways of doing that.
It's been a wonderful experience for me to hear your perspectives on the material that I live with every day. Appreciate your taking time out from the very busy
Thank you very much.
schedule.
I've enjoyed it.